And welcome to the Daily Space Weather, folks. I'm your host, Dan, aka smAsho, and we've got a super interesting series of bits of information for you today. We've got all kinds of activity on the sun, a bunch of filaments, no sunspots, I don't think. We'll get to it in a minute. We'll get to it by the end of the video, really. And we see some coronal mass ejections here, nothing in the Earth-facing region, particularly a little bit of a diffuse ejection there, nothing to write home about. Here's the 48-hour view from SDO in 171 angstroms. And we'll be looking at that active region down there momentarily. First, you see that coronal mass ejection there. It's going off to the west. So off in this direction here, you can see that. And we see some oddities here, like the lack of mercury on the images. It makes little sense. You can see it wink in there. It's very odd. Here you can see mercury on the LASCO C2 as it swings around the back side of the local yellow dwarf. And again, you can see that coronal mass ejection coming out of the west. Here's the image from stereo A, and you can see that it came out of the south and then it headed off to the west. It's a southwesterly coronal mass ejection. And here's a close-up of that prominence we see down there in the southeast. And we've got a custom video for you there. This one's from spaceweather.com. Next, we'll look at the fields. And that looks like it's decayed to a plage. This active region down here, I don't think it's a sunspot. And again, you can see this former sunspot 2760 is setting today, giving you great opportunities for some good images of that. And there's the image of 304 angstroms. Let's just put this back to 171. And here's a custom image of those filaments. And it's a great, you can see the filament raining down back onto the chromosphere. A great image there. I'll let that play through a second time. And also you can see the active region there. I believe it was sunspot 2763, another cycle 25 bit of solar behavior. And we can tell that based on not only the polarity of the magnetic fields, but also the latitude, as that one's very far off of the equator. Young sunspots early in the cycle have a tendency to be far off the equator. Old sunspot cycle sunspots tend to be near or on the equator. And we got a video demonetized here, episode 5 of the Diamond Anvil Too Hard to Smash, which is also featured over on Oppenheimer Ranch Project's channel. So we've requested a review on that. And we have the video on BitChute as well here. So yeah, BitChute, thanks to our new subscribers in both locations. We greatly appreciate your support. And let's talk about part of the smAsho mission, and you can read all about it if you head to smashomash.com/forum/mission. In any case, number 2 on the mission is to raise the awareness of the general public of the relationship between space weather and Earth effects. So people may be amazed, or they may be too arrogant to understand that mankind doesn't control the weather or have the ability to control the weather. A lot of people believe that the climate is being controlled by carbon dioxide, or by HARP, or by chemtrails, or by other means to manipulate the overall climate. And let's just say all your weather comes from space, and the amount of wattage that mankind is able to generate is not sufficient to do any of those things. And let's get back to the local yellow dwarf here. And again, here's the full video of that filament region, and there's some filaments in the north there that are headed down toward the south, it looks like, right at the end of the video there. So I would be looking at the east side of the sun throughout the day today. As these things take many hours to propagate, you should get a great view of that throughout the day today. Perhaps we'll make another video later. Back to some more data, the KP index. The planetary geomagnetic overall planetary index is currently at 2. So no kind of geomagnetic storms or anything like that. The 10.7 centimeter radial flux, a good proxy for sunspot number, is still at 69 solar flux units. Here's where objects are in the solar system. As Mercury swings around the backside of the sun, there's where things will be in a week. As Mars blows past Jupiter, and Earth creeps up on them both. If you've got a low horizon before sunrise, check out Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars. And you've got a setting, relatively full moon right now as well. And let's move on to cosmology. There's an interesting article out. You'll see this all over the internet throughout the day today about the supermassive radio source orbiting another supermassive radio source. And there's this 12-year orbit going on, where every 12 years you've got these 2 flares that happen as one massive radio source, estimated to be 150 million solar masses, orbits this one at only an estimated mass of 18 billion solar masses. So it's a bit of a large interaction here, and every time this massive radio source passes through the disk of plasma orbiting this massive radio source, you get a huge flare. And so this article will be all over the internet. We picked up one from Universe Today. So again, every time this goes through the accretion disk, you get a massive amount of X-rays and other radiation coming out of it. And again, that happens every 12 years. And I think there's an animation of it. Here, we'll show you the animation. And by the way, we are streaming live to Twitch. That's part of the reason why we have to do everything on the fly. Now, we shoot our produced videos in a guerrilla style also. And I can't full screen that. That's fine. But there you can see it's extremely perturbed orbit of that object as it passes through the accretion disk of the basically the galaxy OJ287. And I don't know too much about OJ287 other than that it is a distant galaxy, and it's basically acting like a plasma etch-a-sketch out there. If you see check out the pattern of that. The simplified orbit, and again, it's very perturbed. It seems to go to about 90 degrees. You can see the way this orbits. It gets very close to the more massive radio source. So it's what we call a highly eccentric orbit. If you want to read about it, check it out at universetoday.com. Unsettled Science. Latest climate models have unrealistically high projections of future warming. Well, who could have guessed? Who could have possibly guessed? I mean, Tony Heller could have probably guessed. And Tony, if you're watching, we have to get you on the show. Let's get back to solar data. X-ray flux is still quite flatlined over the past 3. And no surprises there, no big changes in the proton flux. High energy particles, primarily consisting of hydrogen nuclei. Now, we've recently seen the solar wind fall off a cliff at very low levels here. Check it out. Solar wind speed all the way down at 300 kilometers per second about. It actually got below it, just off the lows of 294 kilometers a second. And background level solar wind density as well, somewhere between 2.5 and 6.4 protons. And we see the BT/BZ converging closer to the 0 line here. Nothing to write home about there. Nothing too exciting about the phi angle either. Let's look at the magnetosphere as we do daily. Here's 4 hours of data. And we've got some interesting entertainment stuff to talk about momentarily. Some recommendations of some hilarious web shows. Anyway, there's the 4 hours of geospace magnetosphere in terms of the pressure. not too exciting there, pretty steady, and a pretty low pressure and velocity. Pretty low density and velocity. Here's a little closer to home, ground geospace magnetic perturbations, as these are partially induced by incoming solar protons, as well as lots of other factors. If you want to read about the Space Weather Framework model. It's listed down below this in the details, and you're not going to see very many perturbations there during this polar excursion. GOES magnetometer is still kind of sawtoothed and spiky, and that's all predicted when we look at the Gong 2 data. So here is the Gong 2 data. This is the top view ecliptic plane field plot as if you're looking down toward the sun. And we can see an indication that there's still a bunch of plasma, a pretty concentrated cone-shaped area of plasma here between Earth and Sun. And we're going to continue to see spiky GOES magnetometer settings. Keep in mind we could be fixing for a significant coronal mass ejection here, as there's a bunch of filamentary activity, especially on the eastern limb. And here's the line of sight field plot. Nothing too exciting going on there. Keep in mind the data is an hour and 26 minutes old, and the magnetic environment can change with absolutely no warning, which is part of the reason why we have the channel. Because it's tough to forecast, and we don't do things because they're easy. We do things because they're hard. Here's the relativistic electrons, and they're incredibly low. Here's a total electron content forecast, also amazingly low. So extreme electron shortage is going to be followed by an extreme electron storm. Those electrons are out there, or they're in here, and wherever they are, they're going to end up in the Van Allen belts soon. But they're not there yet. So we see this very low solar wind speed and density, and we don't see a lot of proton input. We don't see a lot of solar wind striking the magnetosphere at this point. So when those electrons show up are anybody's guess, but there is the current GOES electron flux, still quite cratered at very low levels. Next, the F2 ionosphere. There's the ionosphere, the whole planet's ionosphere, courtesy of Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology. And the ionosphere is still quite wobbly here. The nighttime side is sort of excessively discharged. Daytime side is pretty normal. Here's the latest image coming in at 7:45 UT. Pretty normal on that frame. Next, pressure cells. It's windy.com's GFS forecast. They've got a great mobile app. If you haven't checked out their mobile app, perhaps check that out. It's good times. There's where things will be around 1 p.m. my time, and if you're wondering where I'm located, it's in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, not Lake Vostok, Antarctica. Next, the earthquake rundown. Nothing over a 6 magnitude. We're going to scroll up real quick after we talk about this 4.4 on the Kamchatka Peninsula at 173 kilometers depth. Aftershock still striking Greece after a significant quake happened there over the weekend. And just scrolling up, noting anything out of the ordinary here. Please leave a comment if I missed something. There's a deep quake at Alaska. It's 2.7 kilometers. I mean, a 2.7 magnitude, but 109 kilometers. And please excuse me. Oh, okay. Excuse me. And there's a significant quake near Trinidad and Tobago. It's a 4.9 magnitude at 95 kilometers depth, so perhaps a large quake brewing there south of the Caribbean. Next, looking at the volcano rundown, we see Mount Asos erupting, producing a 6,000-foot ash plume there. Kuchinarabu Jima, 3,000-foot flight level there. Semeru, I believe, just upticked as it's exploding, 14,000-foot ash plume there. Tokono exploding, flight level 7,000. Sangay exploding, flight level 20,000. I believe that's an uptick also. Revenador exploding, flight level 15,000. And intermittent emissions from Sabancaya are an indication not to attempt to hang glide over the caldera. And let's talk about the spooky, scary virus. By the way, if you're viewing live, please leave us a comment, as this thing hangs above my head and I go, should I keep covering it? Should I just burn it up? Or what do you think? Please leave a comment about the COVID. Have you seen some Cove Idiots around? Well, there's some interesting things to do while you're on lockdown. And I won't be on lockdown because I'm what you call essential personnel who has to protect the food supply by facilitating the laboratory testing of it. So let's talk about Cove Idiots. Here's one. And this is, by the way, this is a Paul Joseph Watson video. If you're not subscribed to Paul Joseph Watson, he's got 1.8 million subscribers. He doesn't need you. Check this out. This is amazing. Have yourself a laugh while you're locked down.
What are you doing?
Walking, Sandy.
Why are you walking
What are you doing? Walking, Sandy.
around with a ski mask?
Because you can't go outside without a mask.
Why are you walking around with a ski mask? Because you can't go outside without a mask.
But that's for the corona.
That's for the corona too.
That's not gonna protect you.
I feel protected.
It's not going to protect you. I feel protected. Well done. Well done. Yowzers. So in any case, we've updated the forums. have yourself a heaping helping of nature. Don't lock yourself in a cave a la Johnny Depp. And by the way, we got to see what Johnny Depp's doing. I totally forgot. Let's see if he's got any more interesting posts. And it looks like he doesn't have any more interesting posts. Darn it. So in any case, here's what I was doing yesterday in the early morning hours. And I may have to use that graphic to create some special effects at a later time. Stay tuned. What about doing some night fishing? Are you aware that dark-colored lures work much, much better at night? It's believed to have to do with the silhouetting of the lures against the sky, but I don't really understand why that would be. Also, vibration is super important. I'm not going to tell you any more things, but are you familiar with the North American starling and how it's one of the worst ecological disasters in the history of mankind? Now, this pest, an invasive species estimated to have numbers between 500 million and 1 billion birds on the North American continent, was introduced by some Shakespeare fans, who I imagine have a special place in hell in Central Park. These birds were introduced late 1800s, early 1900s, I want to say, by some kind of Shakespeare society. And see, they wanted people in North America to experience the writings of Shakespeare in a better fashion. So what they did is they created one of the largest and worst man-made ecological disasters of all time, the introduction of the European starling into North America. Now these birds, they don't just kill and supplant local indigenous birds such as purple martins, northern flicker, bluebirds, and any sort of a cavity nesting bird. They also cause all kinds of havoc on farms by interfering with the food chain. In other words, they spread disease in things like grain silos, on tractors, on cattle, by infecting grain silos and things. One of the worst ecological disasters of all time is the European starling. Now, if you're wondering about what good are they, well, you can eat them. And I've never tried eating one, but these things are flying meatballs. They have a razor-sharp bill that they sharpen by shoving into the ground with their bills closed for some reason, unlike any North American bird. So anyway, if you see a black-colored bird with a yellow beak in North America, that's a starling, and the season never closes on starlings. In some places, such as in Pennsylvania, I believe, including even on Sundays, the EPA kills them off systematically, but they could be very tasty. Now, any sort of a recipe that you could use to cook a dove would be appropriate for consuming starlings. Please leave us a comment if you've ever eaten a starling. I'd consider it. And we've got some recipes here on thehighroad.org. If you type in starling recipes, it'll be the second result on DuckDuckGo. Eat a starling. Let us know what that's like. Are you familiar with another thing you could do while you're locked up is learn about the stock market, economics, etc. Have you ever heard of a dead cat bounce? Well, the dead cat bounce is a thing that's made many, many people, probably more millionaires in terms of trading than anything else. A dead cat bounce is the term is because if you drop a cat off of the Empire State Building, even though it's going to die, it's still going to bounce after it hits the pavement. And this holds true with most stock crashes. I won't say anything else or give you any, quote, investment advice, end quote. But Wall Street Expression describing the phenomenon of a stock or share bottoming out to near zero, then recovering with a sharp buying spree. The notion that even a dead cat will bounce if dropped from a high enough point. It's real, folks, and there are many, many millionaires. And let's talk about some geniuses of gaming. It's FPS Doug. Now, you may have heard on the internet the trope, boom, headshot! You may have heard that. Well, it's from this guy, FPS Doug. Here's a clip.
Boom, headshot!
So, FPS Doug is hilarious. And, maybe you don't know about FPS Doug, but first of all, watch this video. But second of all,
Born to play FPS? Because there's nothing left to do except better graphics.
Sometimes I think maybe I should join the army. It's basically like FPS, except better graphics.
But what happens if I get lag out there? I'm dead!
He's like, plus I even heard there were no respawn points in RL, which stands for real life. So anyway, if you want to learn more about this maniac, check out Pure Ownage. It's pureownage.com. Spelled with P's. Pure Ownage, Pwnage. And watch their web series. It is hilarious. You may be interested in the noob song.
Cause I own you like pretty hard stuff, right?
Some of the funniest Canadians you'll see outside of Tom Green, perhaps. In fact, maybe even funnier. They're also on Twitter. So check out Jarrett and Jeff Lapierre and Joel Gardner, the guy that plays, Joel Gardner, the guy that plays FPS Doug. They are hilarious. And again, you can find them on YouTube also under Pure Ownage. It's Kyle PP. And there's a web series and a TV series. And the entire web series is still on the YouTube page. The TV series, you may have to look at that in other places. But it is hilarious. And here's another clip featuring FPS Doug. FPS Doug is a very...
So I owned him at Doom, and he was like, fag, and I'm like, noob.
So check that out. It is hilarious. And I've forgotten to update the forum, folks. But I'm going to do it here before your very eyes and teach you how to use the forum. So if you want to share a post, all you got to do and my icons are not sorted. I don't know what the heck is up with that, but let's just let that slide. We've got a forum, we've got a section on nabs, as well as a section on Cove Idiots. So check out smashamash.com/forum. And let's just move on here. I'm not going to update it now. Here's a section on nabs, by the way, if you're wondering what nabs are. That just means noobs, but it's like an elite term. You'd say, you'd be 1337 if you say nabs instead of noobs. Also, we define the word nibs, so please contribute. Nibs is a noob that's so noobified he can't even type in multiplayer chat or play for objectives. Nibs are often barely even capable of moving around in-game and are regularly people like your 4-year-old little brother. Also, check out the Guild. The Guild is super hilarious, too, if you think gaming is ridiculous. These are some fantasy MMO players. The Guild, and this is a famous actress who's been on various different series, such as, I believe, Supernatural, as well as, I think, The Walking Dead. And this show is hilarious. Check it out. The Guild, if you haven't seen that. Now, we've also got a section on coronavirus, which we've been covering since January 23rd. Yeah, we picked it up before most mainstream news did, like everything else. And yeah, is it dangerous? Not particularly for healthy people, as people tend to have an unhealthy reaction to things and overreact and create a response that's much worse than the virus itself. So please have some
discernment
when you're looking at the news and things like that, and view our content as perhaps it will create an uplifting tone in your daily nonsense. Maybe turn off CNN and turn on smashamash.com/forum and youtube.com/smashamash, bitchute.com/smashamash, and every place else where we have a web presence. We put up exclusive content all over the internet, whether it's on Twitter, Instagram, Minds, Facebook, etc. Next, we're going to look at the jet streams as we see them doubled up, tripled up, meridional all over the place, both in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. Check out the meridional jet stream flow. It looks like a diagrammatic definition. We've even got some flow in the wrong direction over here. Check it out. Jet stream is flowing east to west, south of Greenland. Next, we'll look at the western world. Here's the west. And we're looking at the possibility of snow coming up this weekend, Mother's Day weekend, the Saturday before Mother's Day on May 9th, early in the morning. The possibility of snow hitting the Lehigh Valley. Now, I love extreme cold and hot, so I welcome it. People will be crying about it, though, and saying, I don't want to go outside. I want to shelter in place and look myself in a cave. No. Here are the water vapor maps for Europe and Africa. Here are the water vapor maps for the Far East and Oceania. Here's a lightning map, and it looks like we're getting some lightning once again in the U.S. We'll show you the radar momentarily. Hey, Louisville, there's thunder rolling in. If you've never checked out lightningmaps.org, it's highly recommended next time you hear thunder. If you still have the internet, lightningmaps.org, you can actually forecast thunder and frighten the natives by pretending that you're Thor. Here's the U.S. Doppler radar map, and we've got some significant storms there, which just seem like they broke up there over eastern Tennessee, western North and South Carolina. Hopefully everybody's okay down there, as it still continues to snow in places like Maine. And here's the U.S. water vapor map, and we're totally going to look at that area over Tennessee, as we see a big convergence there. Major pressure gradients happening. And pressure gradients are what cause your violent weather, folks. It's not caused by HAARP. It's not caused by contrails. It's not caused by chemtrails. It's not caused by ship tracks. It's not caused by mankind doing anything at all. It comes from space. By the way, we're coming at you from the Smash bunker again, as we've decided to just live in a bunker all the time and eat nothing but Snickers bars. Yeah, we bought a pallet of Snickers bars. That's our only food. So we've got toilet paper microphones and Snickers bars for the rest of eternity. Anyway, two major cells there, and you can see this convergence happening in between them. A bunch of dry air mixed in there, causing them to butt up against the dry air. But everything's moving to the east. And I just want to look at my own area here, as we've got some fairly neutral air rolling through. And you can see all of these perpendicular lines here, which are moving perpendicular to the mode of motion of the water, which is what we call the Hall effect in the atmosphere. And hey, Smash team, thanks for tuning in. Please leave a comment. Please share on your social media. We consider everything a collaborative effort over here, and we'll be making more videos soon, perhaps a standalone cosmology segment or something like that. Have you seen the Diamond Anvil Too Hard to Smash, our new series? We're only up to 5 episodes now. The latest one is entitled Episode 5, Factions, Fiction, Compaction, and Contradiction. And this one is also featured on Oppenheimer Ranch channel. So perhaps go watch it from Diamond's perspective also, as he was looking at some different stuff. So there's that video over there. All the way 2.6 thousand views already. So shout out to Diamond once again. Thanks for promoting the channel, Diamond. And his latest video is about planting potatoes.
See how deep I am? You just drop it in.
If you don't know about planting potatoes, perhaps look at his side-by-side comparison thing that he's doing here. And yeah, I'd consider setting up a planter like that myself, if I ever have time. Also, thanks to our Subscribe Stars. The tier at Subscribe Star is $3 a month. Thanks to our patrons, the true source of funding for our content. Whether you're an associate producer or an assistant producer, and whether you're at the gold level or the intro level, thanks for your support, patrons. And please consider becoming a patron if you're not yet, as we do a lot with a little on this channel. And if you've ever heard of a shoestring budget, we've got a dental floss and bubblegum budget. Next, looking at the local yellow dwarf. Back to the sun, folks, for obvious reasons, to show you 0 sunspots. Here's the colorized magnetogram, recently refreshed. That active region, not a sunspot. Sunspot 2760, the active region associated with that former sunspot, is setting over the west. So you've got good opportunities for that. And watch the eastern limb, as there are filaments both in the north and the south. And let's check out one more video here. How about the 131 angstroms? This is one of the best ones, along with 94 angstroms, to show things like solar flares, sunspots, magnetic looping. It's one of the ionized iron states. I believe it's iron 16, don't quote me on it. And this does take more images like the 94 angstrom, 10 images per minute instead of only 2, so 5 times as many images. And you can't really see the filaments too much in this view. They are visible in 171 and 304 angstroms if you want to go look at it yourself. These are from the SDO website. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for staring at the sun and attempting to understand the physics. When you're doing so, don't drink, and if you do drink, don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may the solar wind be at your back.